Okay, now to the estate tax rollback. This is Washington Senate Bill 6347 proposes to reverse the 2025 increase in the state's estate tax, which put the top rate up to 35%. So somebody dies, they're a multimillionaire, say they've got a $9 million mansion, you're going to give 35%, and your family takes over, right? Maybe wants to sell that property. Well, 35% of the profits of that would go back to the state. Apparently there's been some pushback, even though this thing is not yet even in effect. But this bill, Senate Bill 6347, would roll it back to the rate that it was prior to passage last year, making that top rate 35%. Apparently aims to address the concerns raised by some wealthy individuals, the high tax burden on the wealthy in the state of Washington. People have talked about capital flight and relocating. The bill's sponsor is Senator Claudia Kaufman of Kent. So in the hearing, which I sat in this morning, which started at 8 a.m., she said, really, it just aims to undo recent changes that made Washington's estate tax rate the highest in the nation. So here's Senator Kaufman, and then an interesting question to her posed by committee member Representative Cindy Jacobson of Puyallup.
This is a very straightforward adjustment to our estate tax. Last year, the rate within our schedule was increased, and this bill simply restores it back to those rates that were there. The state tax, of course, will continue to support education through the Education Legacy Trust.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you let us know why you're running this in a time when we have such a budget crisis?
We have such a budget crisis. Yes, we do have such a budget crisis. There are a lot of things I could say about the budget crisis, but in terms of this particular bill, this was a rate increase that was the largest. It took a significant jump, and I believe it impacted the people who live here, and people would consider moving in order to save those estate taxes.
Now, supporters of revisiting the policy, cite some reports that high net individuals, they're considering relocating to states with lower taxes. Now, state officials have conceded they don't know the impact yet because, it's not until people file their taxes for this year, which people are doing now, but April is when they expected to be able to, produce the first results and say how many people paid the higher estate tax rate, how much did it bring in for the state of Washington. But if this thing gets rolled back, it's going to go back to where it was before. Others have suggested that this is, as I mentioned, just being rolled back to basically concede, all these tax the rich policies, or some of them may not be a good idea. We better at least roll this one back since we're asking for a millionaire's income tax as well. And that one's still steaming toward approval here in Olympia. So we're going to be watching that very well. And I should tell you, the bill is set for executive session. The estate tax rollback set for executive session in the House Committee on Finance at 8 a.m. on Monday. All right. Now to House Bill 2347. This is a bill that would have repealed the tax on luxury aircraft. The sponsor is Representative Tom Dent, Republican of Moses Lake. And early this month, I spoke with him, and he was pretty bummed out. He said the bill's dead. The bill's dead, even though he thought he had, a commitment from some majority Democrats to repeal this thing this year. But it apparently has new life because it's been rolled into the yet-to-be-passed transportation package. So have to back up to last session. It was Senate Bill 5801, which at the time was sponsored by Senator Marco Lias, Democrat from Edmonds, and he got his bill passed to tack on a 10% sales and use tax on the sale or lease of non-commercial aircraft valued over $500,000. So the tax has not yet taken effect, set to April of this year. But Representative Dent, who's himself an aviator and a rancher in Moses Lake, he was hearing just after that bill passed last year major concerns about the potential negative impacts on aviation businesses here in Washington state. In fact, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association said the bill threatened aircraft component manufacturers as well by adding to the overall tax burden. And part of the issue, they said, is it really encouraged aircraft registrations in more tax-friendly neighboring jurisdictions like Oregon and in Idaho. And in fact, that has already happened. As I wrote about earlier this month, a business called Schweitzer Engineering out of Pullman, they've already relocated some of their aircraft to Idaho to avoid the tax. They've got 5 corporate aircraft, 8,000 employees, and they use the airplanes to move their employees all around the state. And it's a worldwide company that does business everywhere. So relocating those aircraft out of state certainly has the potential to cost the state of Washington significant tax revenue. But again, Dent's bill has apparently been rolled in as what they call a trailer to the transportation package. And I spoke with Representative Dent about that this morning. He explained most people think luxury aircraft is private jets for the super rich, but he said it's not that part of the industry that would really be hurt by this tax.
Aircraft are tools. They're not. I mean, there's some folks in the legislature who have always referred to them as big boys' toys, but aircraft are tools. I mean, not saying that there's not an occasional toy out there. Don't misunderstand me. Corporations, businesses use them for executive transportation, personnel transportation, things of this nature. They're also used in agriculture for spraying, for aerial photography, infrared photography to check the health of fields, et cetera, et cetera. Firefighting, of course. So our aerial assets in firefighting are huge. They're just huge. What we've been able to accomplish and how we've been able to knock the fires back. So they use them a lot in law enforcement, surveillance, and healthcare. The aircraft the air ambulances that fly people around, the helicopters that come to the hospital and pick you up after you've had a heart attack and take you to some place where they can save your life, right? Or they go out on the freeway where there's been a bad wreck and they land and they pick you up and they get you to to an emergency center. So, all these things are these kind of aircraft that cost us a huge amount of money. Okay, the toys that we have, the aircraft that I have, for myself, doesn't fit into that. I would never had to pay that tax, okay, because it isn't worth that much, okay. But the aircraft that they fit into that, pretty for the most part, are not toys. Okay, they're not toys; they are tools.
So again, Representative Dent obviously very pleased that his bill has been resurrected. He's got fingers crossed for the full repeal of the tax. So that's it for day 46. Here in Olympia, we've got just 14 days left in the regular session. We are set to wrap up 2 weeks from today on March the 12th. So we'll see if they get out of here and gavel out on time. Everybody's suggesting that it doesn't look like we'd have to go into extra session or add any extra time, as long as they can agree, of course, on those final budget proposals that they're all hammering out now. Tomorrow morning, Friday morning, we're going to be back here again bright and early for executive session on the income tax bill. So we'll bring you updates on that bill as it moves through House Finance early on Friday morning. So thank you so much for watching another episode of Washington in Focus Daily. Have a great day. I'm Carlene Johnson.